All right, hi class, and welcome back. We are nearing the end of the term, and this week we are tackling questions about life and death. Today's lecture is about euthanasia, active and passive euthanasia. This may be a familiar term with you, especially for those of you with animals, right? Euthanasia is often a term we use to describe putting an animal down, putting an animal to sleep, in short, killing an animal. But today, we're going to be talking about euthanasia as it relates to humans. Whether or not active or passive euthanasia, so deliberate or passively allowing someone to die, is morally acceptable. So today, we have a couple of learning objectives for you. Ooh, my stuff. Oh boy. Here we go. All right, let's try this. Move my camera. So after completing the lecture today, students should be able to first explain the difference between passive and active euthanasia. Second, explain the premises and conclusions from an article that we'll read from James Rachel's called Active and Passive Euthanasia. And then finally, identify some common objections to Rachel's argument. Right? Remember, this is in terms of poking holes in the premises, showing why the premises that lead to the conclusion are not true. All right, so part one, active versus passive euthanasia. All right, so to start, I would like for you guys to imagine two cases. The first is a case which we'll call the withdrawal treatment case. In this case, Jack is suffering from a terminal disease. He has 2 weeks to live and is in extreme, incurable pain. Just like constantly in pain, needing morphine drops. He spends his days in agony, unable to sleep, and he is essentially begging his family for death. Seeing that death could be hastened if Jack's IV is removed, with Jack's consent, the doctor does so, right? Removing the life-supporting IV. Jack dies a week sooner than expected. So this case is the withdrawn treatment. The doctor withdraws his or her treatment, leading Jack to die a week sooner than expected. Okay. The second case is the case of the lethal injection. In this case, Jill is also suffering from a terminal disease. She has 2 weeks to live and also is in extreme, incurable pain. She spends her days in agony, unable to sleep, and is asking for death. 1 week before her death, the doctor gives Jill a lethal injection with her consent, and her suffering ends. So we have two treatments, or two cases here, the withdrawn treatment and the lethal injection. Now, both of these stories are instances of euthanasia. Euthanasia literally in ancient Greek means the good death. It's the act of bringing about someone's death, either directly or indirectly, for their own good. Now, the first case that we looked at, the withdrawn treatment case, is an example of passive euthanasia. The second case, the lethal injection, is an example of active euthanasia. In the passive euthanasia, the doctor indirectly is bringing about someone's death, Jack's death, by withholding or withdrawing treatment. But this is seen as something for the individual, the patient's good. The second case, the active euthanasia, which means directly bringing about someone's death for their own good. Now, most people think it would be permissible to withdraw treatment in that first case, but wrong to administer lethal injection in the second case. And our laws reflect this. At least some form of passive euthanasia is currently legal everywhere in the world, while active euthanasia is illegal in all but 5 countries. Those are the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Canada, and Colombia. Now, both ordinary ethical intuition as well as the law sees a difference between active and passive euthanasia. But is there really a moral difference between them? And that's the question that James Rachels is tackling. It's a question that we are going to be tackling. Is there a moral difference between active and passive euthanasia?